We all love dogs, don't we? Well, most of us do. Dogs are amazing. I can't seem to wrap my head around people who dislike dogs. I mean, and that is a scientific fact, dogs have hacked their way into our inner workings. Spending time with a dog releases oxytocin, the same hormone that is released in mothers when they spend time with their babies. This hormonal release goes both ways for the humans and their canine companions. That fact mostly applies to dog owners because they get to spend a lot of time with their dogs and have a steady emotional connection with these animals. If it wasn't clear by this point, I own a dog. She's been the love of my life for the last 2.5 years. Some people might find that phrasing a tad odd, but I don't have any other way to describe her, especially since she's my therapist on top of being a furry companion. My time in a uniform has left quite a hell inside of my head, and my dog Jessica, she's the only thing that's keeping me sane at my darkest hours. Now all of that is lovely, isn't it? Obviously, I wouldn't come here if there wasn't some dark twist in my life regarding Jessie. Some heartbreaking tragedy or something. Yeah, that happened. A tragedy did indeed strike, and if I'm being honest, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but my girl, she might have died and came back from hell, or was abducted by aliens, or I don't even know. She's back with me now, but I think she might have gone to the other side because something is not right with her. All I know is that she asked to go outside one night 6 weeks ago, and the next morning she wasn't there. She was gone, as if the earth had swallowed her whole. Now, I have to mention that it's a common thing with her. Jessica is an odd Labrador. She's insanely independent and very confident. She's in fact so confident she had scared males larger than her more than once just by approaching them. As for her independence, she sometimes likes to go out into my yard and play on her own. And she also asks to go to the yard whenever nature calls. I didn't even have to teach her that. She was like that from the day I got her from the shelter. Despite all of that, she suffers from the same separation anxiety all labs suffer from. Not that I leave her on her own for too long. So, yeah. A rather usual night. Jessie, who was sleeping in my bed with me, woke up, dug around the bed sheets for a moment to wake me up. She's a smart girl, isn't she? And just as I was beginning to drift back into the world of the waking, I felt her wet dog run itself across my face. I woke up to see Jessie seated in front of me, Doggy smiling with her tail wagging. She got off the bed and made her way towards the entrance. To me, it was obvious. She was asking to go outside. She had done it time after time. We had a sort of non-verbal language between us. So I let her out and kept the back door open for her to come back inside once she decided she wanted to and headed back to bed. I woke up the next morning and got out of my bed, made my way to the bathroom, and then brushed my teeth. Usually by this point, she'd be running to the bathroom and wait for me at the entrance. She hates water, so she never goes into the bathroom on her own volition. She wasn't there. I thought it was odd, but I assumed she was sleeping. So I finished brushing my teeth and called out her name. Nothing. I became slightly worried. I was thinking she might have gotten sick or something, so I went outside. She wasn't there. I looked all over the yard, and the house, and the yard again. Everything was properly in place, but no Jessica. How does a 70-pound beast made up of fur, muscle, and nuclear explosion, amounts of happiness, just disappear? I was beginning to panic. Morbid thoughts ran through my head. What if someone had stolen her? Or what if she ran away? What if she got hurt? I was losing my shit, screaming at the top of my mouth, screaming for my girl, hoping she'd respond by barking back at me, running from the street or from a neighbor's yard. That never came, and as the moments passed, my mind went into increasing darker places, and the calls for my dog for steadily being replaced by profanities at the world and myself. I hated myself so much at that moment. Dressed in my night clothes, I ran from door to door all over my neighborhood, asking if anyone had seen my dog. None did. She had simply vanished into thin air. I ended up spending the next month looking for her almost every waking hour. My mental state had declined, and I could hardly even sleep after the first week. Self-loathing for losing Jessica consumed me. During the nights I hated myself, screaming at myself internally, cursing myself for being a failure. I wasn't suicidal or anything, but I was definitely self-torturing. I literally wanted to hurt myself mentally. During the days I was toxic, both to myself and others, my anxiety and anger spilled everywhere and at everyone. I rationalized my outbursts sometimes, but others I just hated myself for being so weak and pathetic. These 4 weeks were probably the worst I've ever had. Worst of all, I couldn't find anything about Jessica. Nothing. No clues, no sightings, no nothing. Just as I was about to give up on searching for her, as I was about to let myself mourn her loss, be it her being dead or alive, just as I was about to try to let go, on a particularly painful morning after a night of barely any sleep, a morning on which all of my joints were aching and my head was throbbing with my mind racing, dragging me to the brink of my sanity, I heard a familiar tapping sound on the floor. My heart raced as I made my way to the back door, which I had kept open throughout this whole time, probably due to some wishful thinking that Jessica might come back. I could feel my eyes tearing up when I saw a black Labrador with a white V-shaped stripe on her chest running towards me with a doggy smile. I ran towards her with my arms outstretched, and she pounced on me lovingly, dropping me to the floor before whining and squealing as she licked me all over. That was definitely Jessica. She even had the same curly tail, uncharacteristic of her breed. She's a mutt. And her collar. I cried as I hugged her loosely, asking her where she had been and telling her how much I missed her. A huge stone came off my chest. I had broken down because of catharsis. My girl, the furry love of my life, my anti-madness cure was back. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. I called in sick to work just so I could spend the whole day with her. It turned out she was just fine. No wounds, no hunger problems, no changes in her weight, shape, or gait. Everything was just as it was when she left. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. A week ago, when I took her on her morning walk, I bumped into Adam Greenstein, the guy everyone disliked in the neighborhood. He is the type of douche that finds pleasure in pissing everyone off while being a god-awful coward. In all of my years living here, I've never seen the guy get physical with anyone, even though he always acts like he could beat up a whole mob on his own. I guess that's why he carries a knife around. It helps him keep people at bay while allowing him to run his mouth freely. Now, for the most part, I've learned to ignore his blubbering. But as I mentioned earlier, I've had a terrible month, and I've had a couple of exchanges with him. Nearly coming to blows with him the other day before Bob Smith broke us apart. I swear I've seen no one shake so badly while wagging a knife around. And admittedly, I was shaking with anger because of the build-up of cortisol in my system. Now, I'm walking Jessie around the neighborhood, kind of zoned out, enjoying the warm weather when I hear a familiar sneer, "Get off my street, Kenny, and take your shit-eating mutt away with you." I turned to the side to see Adam walking out of his house. I was about to ignore him and carry on, but Jessie sat down for a breather. That bastard Adam came closer to me, playing with his knife. "Didn't you hear me? I told you to get lost," he barked. I was feeling the anger build up in my veins again. I wanted to restrain myself and just let him keep on yapping like the verbal cholera he is. But I lost control of myself, and I yelled back at him as I tensed my body to fight. "Who the fuck are you to talk?" I caught him by surprise, I guess, as I could hear the doubt in his tone. "It's my street. Get lost." "Your street, eh? Prove it," I retorted. "Dude, go away. I don't want your dog to shit all over my pavement," he barked. "Fuck off, Greenstein. Get out of my sight, you little piece of shit," I yelled at him. "You're lucky we're here, Gordon," he said, feigning calmness. "Oh, are you threatening me now? Are you fucking threatening me now?" I barked at him, walking towards him. I was fuming by this point. He stopped and said, "Dude, just go away." Jessica growled. She hardly ever growled. I'm pretty sure I heard her growl or bark in anger only once when a stray cat tried attacking her. She would never growl. It was weird. "Shh, Jessie," I shot in her direction. She didn't listen, just kept on growling, but I ignored it. I was too angry. I kept on shouting at Adam. "Come on, motherfucker, you threaten me. Act on it. I want to see you try to cut me up with that butter knife." The bastard was backing away back into his yard. As I walked towards him, I could see the fear glowing in his eyes, and it made me want to shut him up for good. I wouldn't touch him for as long as he didn't swing first. I just wanted to chase him back into his apartment and scream at him like the bitch he was, for the whole neighborhood to hear at his front door. I was so occupied with my rage, I didn't even notice how my dog was going all ballistic on him. She was practically roaring at him. At one point, he must have slipped because I saw him drop to his ass and cry out, "What? What the fuck is that?" pointing frantically at Jessie. I broke my gaze for a moment from him and looked at my dog. What I saw made me drop the leash to the floor. A black beast stood next to me. It was hardly a dog. It was this black quadrupedal thing that looked more like a mountain lion than a dog, with black fur that danced around, as if it was some sort of black flame. 4 black-white eyeballs adorned each side of its elongated head. And the mouth? Oh boy, the mouth. The lower jaw of what was supposed to be my beloved dog was split open in half, giving it an insectoid mandible appearance riddled with viper fang-like teeth on both sides, with a bunch of tendrils coming out of the maw. Some sort of acidic saliva fell from behind this disjointed jaw. It was most definitely acidic, because when it hit the pavement, I could see smoke rising up. I stood there in disbelief. Is that my dog? I questioned myself. Hesitantly, I called out, "Jessie?" And the beast wagged its now snake of a tail, producing this horrendous hissing sound. I took a step back, and the beast unleashed a mighty cry, one that sounded like a mixture between a long, straining, red-tailed hawk screech and awful human gurgling sounds. The cry made the air vibrate, and it made me feel sick. I turned my attention to Adam again, who was screaming like a madman at this point. He was begging me to take that thing away and not let it harm him, as he scrambled to his feet and ran back inside. He was so scared he shat himself. I kid you not. A piece of feces fell down from his boxers as he ran inside. I was shaken by the sight of my dog turning into the same stuff H.P. Lovecraft's dreams are comprised of. That's why I kept staring at Greenstein's shit-stained doorstep. The excess monster parts quite literally burned off of Jessica's body as the bastard ran from her, and she sat down wagging her tail, smiling at me with her tongue out. I didn't know what to think. I mean, my dog's a hellhound or an alien or something, but she defended me. So, I just stood there for a moment, staring at my dog, trying to process what just happened, wondering if she'll pounce on me next. She, in turn, just sat there and waited for me to pick up her leash to carry on with the walk. So, left with no other logical options other than accepting whatever just happened. I took her leash and we kept on walking. The ruckus caused some residents of the neighborhood to come out, and I just told them it was that bloody bastard throwing one of his childish fits again. No one bothered questioning me anymore. We all hate him this much. There were no further occurrences of Jessica going all Hound of Baskervilles, and she was acting pretty normally ever since. Honestly, I have no idea what I should do about all of this, if anything. I mean, after all, she's a good girl, monster or not. On a side note, however, Adam, he kind of lost his marbles completely. They arrested him last night for disturbing the public order. Apparently he was screaming and raving like a maniac about a demonic dog. Apparently he swatted at a cop and got his ass handed to him as they were trying to restrain him. Good riddance, dickhead.